And we are live with another episode of BS Busters. This is the midweek cast, and we've got some good stuff coming up. Some news that came out this week that it surprises no one, but it's a surprise of how the people who this happened to acted. We also have our main topic, which is not going to be a long one, but we'll get through to it. So without that being said, let's get into it. Before we do, let's have the lady introduce herself, and then the gentleman, and then we'll get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, this is Joy Lemon-Star, welcoming you to the BS Busters Midweek Podcast, and EA again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, they basically had to cut their budget forecasts and how much money they were going to make, and how much their investors were going to get paid for being a gaming company, even though EA really is not that good of a gaming company, but. Basically,
yeah, I was gonna say basically they bleed money and people are having the Pikachu face.
People are having something. They're having a baby, but like the thing that gets me is that EA is all like, well, the reason that we're losing money is because you can't put out. It's like, first of all, you had a studio that's known for making RPGs release a massive MMO like looter shooter. Okay, why are you surprised that? I mean, that's basically the equivalent of saying, hey, we have someone here who's used to writing dense, cakey. Let's say we're having George R.R. Martin, who for the last few years is known for writing Game of Thrones. Those books are long, okay? They're long, they're very dense, they're cakey.
They're thick.
Yeah, they're told from different viewpoints. I mean, they are not, they're hardcore. Anyone can die in Game of Thrones. People are horrifically tortured. It's a hard read. And say, hey, we want you to write a 30-page pamphlet. It's like, I mean, he can do it, but that's not really his wheelhouse, Well, that's basically kind of like what they had BioWare do with Anthem, and then they're like, "Oh, we're surprised Anthem's not doing that well." No shit, Sherlock. And here's the thing: rather than take the lesson that needs to be learned, which is different studios have different strengths, and some genres need to be a certain way, and other genres need to be another way. They're like, no, we need to reevaluate how we release games, and we need to twist how we do live service. Never forget that live service games. Yes, you have a few games that are at the top of the mountain. Your Fortnites, your Overwatches, your Destiny to an extent. But by and large, most of the looter shooter games, where the looter shooter / MOBAs, you have a few at the top, and then everyone else is scrounging for crumbs. Okay.
Yeah. Oh boy.
All right. It's kind of like this, right? It's like whether you like McDonald's or not, they're ubiquitous. Okay. So if you want to open a fast food restaurant and you want to be in the same vein as McDonald's, someplace that has cheap food where you can just go pick something up and drive on your way. I mean, you're going to be fighting. You're going to be fighting against someone who's ubiquitous and is at the top. And you're just going to be getting crumbs, Now you might be able to find a niche that works for you, but by and large, you're going to be fighting for crumbs. So it makes more sense for you to just like specialize into something that you can dominate in that other people can't get into, which is what you have with with Nintendo or something like that. But where EA is like, did they honestly think Anthem was going to be able to compete with Destiny or Fortnite? Or people bought it, played it for about a month or so, and are like, and went back to what they were doing because the single player, from what I heard, sucks. The multiplayer sucks. The game is just all around not really what they want. Yeah, it just sucks. They're like, oh well, and rather than thinking, okay, maybe like people don't want this type of game. No, it's our live services. We need to, we can't release games like we used to. You haven't released EA hasn't released a good game in years. Years.
I would say eons, but that would be longer than what they've done.
The last good game that EA released that was like a single player centric focused game was Dead Space 2. Well, and Mass Effect 2. Dead Space 2 and Mass Effect 2. Since then, almost every game they've come out with has been mediocre at best. With all of these, hey, we need to have this online shit. Remember when they started sneaking in all this online? Remember when Mass Effect 3 came out? They're like, yeah, we have an online multiplayer mode. It's like, why the fuck are you taking resources from a single player RPG
and put it into multiplayer?
Add multiplayer. Because I mean, really, this is the end of your trilogy. You need to make this you need to make this single player as tight as humanly possible. No. This will keep people playing the game.
What I read, it's more on BioWare's fault rather than EA this time because they gave BioWare a 6-year or 9-year time limit on making their next big title.
They said they were going to support Anthem for 10 years, which is bullshit. They're not going to support.
I was about to say, how can you support something for 10 years if it bombs in year 1?
Yeah, they're already moving people from BioWare because BioWare was not equipped to make this type of game. BioWare made AA single-player Western RPGs. That's what they're good at. That is, it's like Camelot. Camelot for Nintendo, they're good at making
sports games,
RPGs, strategy RPGs, and sports games. That's their wheelhouse. That's what they're good at, right? It would be weird for you to take Camelot and say, hey, we want you to make a Mario game. Like a traditional 2D Mario game. It's like, but that's not what we do. Well, fuck it. And then act surprised when it comes out not that good or not what people wanted. So, I mean, that's up to EA, right? It's kind of like this, right? Basically EA is like your boss, right? And those are like individual workers at their cubicle, right? And if you go to a cubicle of someone who's known to be an accountant, right? They crunch numbers. That's all they do. And you say, hey, I need you to come up with our new slogan for the company. And then you get mad when the slogan is shit because the person who you chose is the fucking accountant. All they do is crunch numbers. That's on you as the boss. That's not the accountant's fault because you gave them something that they're not good at. And that's except EA is going to blame the workers. Well, why didn't you do better? It's like, this is not what we do. We're not good at this. This is not our thing. And now if they wanted BioWare to be able to make a looter shooter type game like they wanted, they should have gone with something cheaper and smaller at first. Like something that maybe had like a $10-15 million budget, much smaller. So then if it did well, it made a lot of money. If it failed, you're not losing a lot of money. But EA is badly run. Andrew Wilson needs to be fired. Don't fire the marketing department in Australia or whatever. Fire Andrew Wilson because clearly, EA had a good run. They had about 6 years of we're going to nickel and dime the shit out of consumers in order to raise our dividends so that our investors get to see profits. It's not like that anymore. Okay, people are getting tired of it. So. People need a break.
Yeah.
Your guys' thoughts?
Just one word. Facepalm.
Oh yeah. So I guess we can move on to the next topic since we've pretty much reiterated multiple times that EA is a cancer on gaming. Well, they're a cancer on gaming.
Well, I haven't introduced myself yet, so I'm going to try to do in a similar vein as Joel did in her introduction. This is Pedophile from Video Game Facts, and Metroid was going to have a cartoon.
Yeah. I mean, I'll keep it real. I wouldn't do a Metroid cartoon now, just because, like, you could do so much more, but
there's only so much one could pull off.
Well, no, I wouldn't do a Metroid cartoon now, just because, like, Metroid has gotten. I mean, Metroid was always kind of dark, but now, I mean, it would like. I mean, I would do more of like a PG, like a PG-13, like almost rated R like animated Metroid series, maybe like 6-7 episodes, and do it like streaming, and actually put like maybe like 35-40 minutes per episode. Because you could get because I mean, the Metroid series has always been kind of dark. Like, when you think about the implications of what some of the stuff means, it's like, oh, this is actually kind of fucking dark. So
No kidding.
that's what I would do. But hey, what do I know? I'm just some guy.
And it's not just Metroid, but also Castlevania.
Yeah, which they're doing a Castlevania animated series, and it sucks.
I was about to say, I thought it was in the second season already.
It still sucks. Just because something has multiple seasons doesn't mean it doesn't suck.
True. I'm just saying that I'm surprised that it's in a second season, because that means there's something to it.
Because people actually enjoyed the Castlevania Netflix series.
Still sucked. I mean, look, man, there are people who are in an S&M who enjoy having their being kicked in the crotch. Doesn't mean it's good. That's not a valid argument. There are people who live in totalitarian regimes and are like, yeah, well, you know, they're keeping those foreigners out of the country. Doesn't mean that form of government isn't ass. So, I mean, you know, yeah, there are people who like the animated Castlevania. I think the first series was cheaply animated, because it was very badly animated. And I mean, the first series was dismal. Like, how in the hell are you going to make a Castlevania animated series and not have Castlevania music in it? Some of the most iconic video game music of all time, nowhere to be seen in the thing. Now, the second one, in the second series, in the second season, you get Bloody Tears, which is nice, but I mean, like, do I really want to get that invested? You know, hoping that the second season of something's going to be good when the first season was ass. I mean,
think that's the law that we sometimes follow. If the first parts were bad, don't expect the rest of it to be good.
I mean, basically, a season for me is kind of like going on a date, right? That first season has to grab me. If the first date sucks, then I'm not going to be that enthused about the second one. Now, some people, they're willing to give it the second chance. Well, maybe if they'll turn things around. I'm like, fuck that. That first date was shit. Probably the second date will be shit too. You know, or the first time you go to a restaurant and the food makes you sick, you don't want to go a second time. Yeah, that's basically how I felt about the Castlevania thing. I saw the second season. It's better, but if the first season was like a 40%, I would give the second season like a 60. There's an improvement, but it's not enough for me to say, wow.
This is actually enjoyable, right?
Well, it's better, but it's not, you know, I'm not. Well, first of all,
you wouldn't say that it's better, but it's not, oh my God, this is better, and I can return to something fun.
Yeah. And, well, I mean, the thing is like, it was never going to be for me, because it stars Trevor Belmont and Alucard and what's her name? The witch kid, the witch lady.
I think it's Sophia or Self.
Sophia Belnade. Here's the thing. I don't even like Trevor Belmont that much. So I already was not going to give a shit. It's the story of Castlevania 3. I already don't give a shit about Castlevania 3. It's like one of my least favorite traditional Castlevanias. Secondly, like I said, that art style is so bad, and the animation, it's gotten better, but it's still not really good. And the thing is this, okay? We've seen what this should have been done before years ago better than what we have now. If you want to know what Castlevania, the animated series, should be, go watch Vampire Hunter D 2. That's what Castlevania should be. Now, I'm not saying you should have D as the main character, but that style of animation that's like a mixture, which is digital animation but done in a hand-drawn style. It's gorgeous. That movie still holds up, and it was done cheaper because the first Vampire Hunter D was all hand-drawn, so it was done cheaper than the first one, and it looked great and has that gothic art style, and like, you know, characters look unnatural but they still look badass. We get none of that animation in this because it's fucking cheap and it looks cheap. And even though it's not as cheap as it was in the first season, it still looks like ass. And I know people will say, well, it's Netflix. You can't expect. Yeah, but Netflix has some pretty good animated stuff on it. Anime, as a matter of fact, that's animated pretty well. I don't know who put this shit together, but they got the cheapest fucking animation studio they could find. Like literally, they were like, well, we'll animate a cell for 50 cents. You're hired. 50 cents, you're hired.
Even the rapper that's named like that wouldn't go for that kind of deal.
Yeah, sometimes you can go so cheap with stuff that it's not worth what the money that you're saving. And this is one of those things where I'm like, yeah, it's no.
Sometimes you need to put money into quality.
And on the bright side, it's at least better than what was the planned Castlevania cartoon, which is just where the art style looks worse than the anime art style that the Netflix cartoon has.
Something must have came up. At least, okay, here's the typing.
Basically, I'm just saying. But yeah, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I can't deal with it. But hey, you know, maybe it'll be good someday. But speaking of underutilized IPs, with the Castlevania anime, you have a video game that was turned into a cartoon. But our main topic is we're covering intellectual properties that either never had a good game or never had a good game made for them. So who wants to go first? Oh wait, no, we do have a viewer submitted topic.
Comment.
Well, one of the suggestions that they have. This is Curse the Mountain from Discus. He says, I think John Carter of Mars, aka A Princess of Mars, the books would make for a good video game material. It even provides for an overpowered protagonist. There's a wealth of material because most of the books are public domain, and you could go the Disney route and make it E for everyone, or swing more toward the book and make hard M and have everyone naked all the time. So they could do Tarzan, because that's another Edgar Rice Burroughs, and it's public domain.
Right, even yet, though his family estate owns the rights to the story and character, though.
Yeah, but the books, like the source material, is public domain. They might have the rights if like you do a movie, but if you do a video game, I don't think anyone will care. Actually, let me check that. I can Google this. This is the great thing about Google, folks. Are the works of Edgar Rice Burroughs public domain? Because I'm pretty sure they are public domain.
I think so.
No, they aren't. They aren't. They aren't. So, but it's still underutilized. I mean, because let's keep it real. That John Carter of Mars movie sucked. And I say this as someone who's read Edgar Rice. Like, I'm kind of a fan of that, like, pre-comic book era of like sci-fi adventure books, like Alan Quatermain and Conan the Barbarian, Cole the Conqueror, Tarzan, John Carter of Mars, Jules Verne's novels. Like, I'm a fan of those things. But we've never had good video games, by and large, from most of them. I mean, the Time Machine's been interpreted into a video game before, and it's actually worked. But by and large, you really don't get that. You know what I mean?
I don't think we have any video games based on 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or The Mysterious Island, do we?
No, I mean, we've had games that were inspired by 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Like, we've had games where, like, they have a Captain Nemo with a badass ship called the Nautilus, you know, doing cool shit. We've had that inspiration fucked up, like in the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. that terrible movie. The movie that was so bad it made Sean Connery retire. That's so terrible.
You got no idea.
I went to go see that movie in movie theaters because I was like, I support Sean Connery, but that movie was so bad it broke me. It broke me.
And we've had some video games inspired by the Mysterious Island, such as the Myst series, which are just point-and-click adventure games.
So, I mean, personally, I just don't get it. But, I mean, so, I got one that we haven't seen a good video game for in a long time. Conan the Barbarian. Now, I know there's an MMO, and there was one Conan the Barbarian game that came out in the 7th gen, but it sucked, so I'm not counting it. It was basically a shitty.
I just remembered about I just now remembered the MMO. Is that you can play as your avatar completely naked in it. You can see their genitals.
Yeah, and well, that's in the new MMO. Yeah, you can make your character naked, and you can even choose how
big your genitals are.
Yeah, or how if you're a woman, how well endowed you are. So and before anyone says that is just
TMI.
That is just too much. You need to walk. You need to read some of the Conan the Barbarian books. Like, this is one of the reasons why I always thought that J.R.R. Tolkien was so fucking boring as a writer. Because if you read a Conan the Barbarian book, it's like Conan the Barbarian does more shit in 6 months than the fucking Hobbit and Frodo and Bilbo and Aragorn. Like, if you just sent Conan the Barbarian to throw that damn ring into Mordor, that shit would have been done, and he would have fucked all those elven chicks too and got them pregnant, and then rode off into the sunset. And he would have done it in one damn book. Like that dude who's like, one that simply does not walk into Mordor. Conan the Barbarian would do that shit. Conan doesn't fuck around, son.
He would do it in style too.
Yeah.
Like break some guard's face in to do that job.
Yeah, Conan the Barbarian is like one of those vital heroes, the pulpy vital heroes who, even as they get older, they just get more badass. Kind of like Batman for the longest time until they finally said, fuck it, he's too goddamn over this shit. It did Batman Beyond. But yeah. So, anyone have any other topics they want to, IPs they think are underutilized?
Cheetah Men, as suggested by one of my friends. I told him
Did I
about
hear
the
you say
podcast.
Cheetah Men?
Yeah.
Oh, beep. About cheese. I'm sorry.
I think now it's time for a hard reboot for that series. And finally give them the good game they deserve. And put a mark on gaming culture history.
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Okay, I mean, I think now's the time for the Cheetah Men to get a hard reboot so they can get a good game they deserve in order to be place their mark on video game history.
Are you serious or are you joking? Because if you're joking, that's actually a pretty good. That's a pretty good sarcasm. If you're serious, I'm gonna have to ask what's wrong with you.
No, it was merely suggested by one of my friends at Discord when I told them about this podcast.
No, man. No.
There we go. The question.
No, we never need Cheetah Men to come back because Cheetah Men has had 2 chances to come back. With Action 52-1 and then Action 52-2, and both chances Cheetah Men sucked. So you know what? If you can't get it right out of 104 chances, then you know that's too many chances. That's too many chances. That's too many chances you got.
I mean, you got a second chance after Bubsy 3D.
Yeah, but Bubsy 3D sucks too. I mean, literally the two Bubsy games that they remade suck because Bubsy foundationally is not a good game. Like the two Bubsy games that came out back in the day weren't good. Bubsy 3D is not good. The new Bubsy game, on a technical level, it's better than the original Bubsy games, but Bubsy is just not a very good playing game. It's never been a good playing game. It's sloppy. It's a sloppy platformer. I mean, I would even say Sonic the Hedgehog's not that good of a platformer.
His games may be fun, but on platforming, it's meh or ugh. Especially though, if anything, it's speedrunner friendly.
Bubsy or Sonic the Hedgehog?
Sonic.
I mean, I think Sonic the Hedgehog is one of the original speedrunner friendly games because basically, especially Sonic the Hedgehog 2, because basically you could like hit those warps, get the as long as you had 50 rings and hit a checkpoint, you could in a level you get the Chaos Emerald and then go on to the next area. It was ridiculous. Sonic the Hedgehog is just one of those games where I don't get the love people have for that game because it's just not that good, in my opinion. But what the hell?
Okay, time for something else that I brought. Time for another intellectual property I brought.
Go ahead.
I could use a good game, Kid Chameleon.
But that, I mean, it already had a good game. It had the first game. Just Sega never made a second one. So that's on Sega for not utilizing but I mean, Sega's been like that for a while now, just not utilizing shit. I mean, you know, we haven't had a Golden Axe in years. Well,
oh, wait, I was actually thinking about Chameleon Twist for the N64.
Chameleon Twist. That's that game where you were the chameleon and you use your tongue to like grab enemies and spin them around and throw them.
It's an interesting game mechanic that could be it could go back to look to utilizing again for future games now that technology has evolved.
Yeah, well, that'd be interesting. I would like to see Treasure do another one of that. Do a sequel to that game they had for the PS2 and the GameCube, where you were this girl with like a scarf, and you could use it to grab enemies and pinch them. But like all the enemies, like most of them were these really busty women, so you'd grab them by their chest and pull it, and their boobs would explode.
Oh God, I remember that game.
It was called something Panic or something. It was one of those, like, Treasure makes games. Either their games are going to be really weird, like their games are weird, but they're either going to be fun weird or just weird. And this was a fun weird game. But I would like to see a sequel, because with the technology being what it is, I think it could totally work. Why did we never get a Punisher first-person shooter? Like, you think it would make sense to have a Punisher first-person shooter?
Probably because they couldn't think of any unique game mechanic to set it apart from the other first-person shooter games.
No, they could. I mean, there was the Punisher, the third-person shooter, where like basically you could execute enemies in the environment, and that was kind of like. But I think you could totally do an open-world kind of sandbox first-person shooter from the Punisher's point of view. Like maybe maybe the Punisher comes to this small city and is beset with crime, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna put down roots and clean up this city. But it's a small city, so like you could actually have a lot of depth and verticality in that city. So like he goes into the sewers, he goes into buildings. Like there's not a lot of buildings, but the buildings are explorable. He can go to multiple floors and stuff like that. And as he slowly cleans up this city, he works his way up to like the main head guy of the city, not the kingpin, because the kingpin is too big to want to take over some shitty little city. But Frank Castle punishes the guilty. You could totally have Frank Castle go around and shoot the shit out of people. So.
And I don't think we have any video games based off of Shield yet. Like you play as Nick Fury.
That would be an interesting game.
Or any other agents of Shield.
I mean, wouldn't that be an interesting game where you could make it like a strategy game, like XCOM, except it's like you're not superheroes. You're agents of Shield. Like there might be a mutant here or there, or someone has like a really minor superpower. But like the vast majority of them, like I just got guns. It's like, I got gadgets. Like the most super, like even their top two agents in the cinematic universe before the Avengers assemble is like Hawkeye, who's just a guy who shoots bows real good. I know that's incorrect grammar. I know it's supposed to be, he's very adept at archery. But I'm using broken English to illustrate a point. And Black Widow, who's a super spy. That's it. That's all you got, And
now you've got Daisy Johnson, who was an Inhuman.
Yeah, but the Inhumans are kind of like, I really want to stay away from the Inhumans because that TV show that they did sucked so bad. It sucked. That sucked a skunk's rotten asshole. It was really bad. It was really, really bad. Oh, it was so bad. But let's see what else. We never get. What would be interesting if they made an open world sandbox crime simulator, but instead of you being the police or a vigilante, you're RoboCop. Like I think you could totally make that into a game where like it starts out like you're RoboCop, you're doing what you need to do, and then like it turns out that we're going with the original continuity, not all the weird shit people did. OCP's in on turning Detroit into a shithole, and they sit like Like, so now, like, RoboCop has to go vigilante, so he's got Ed 209s on his ass. And you can have the same weakness Ed 209 in the game that Ed 209 had in the movie. Like you're in a building, you're ambushed by an Ed 209, and RoboCop's like, I'm going down these steps. And Ed 209's like, shit, my one weakness, steps. I can't go down steps. A major design flaw of a $1 billion robot. Yeah, I mean, imagine open world. You've got vehicles. You've got RoboCop's standard cruiser. Maybe later on in the game you get a tank or a van or something. Maybe like later on in the game you get a jetpack because I mean, come on, man. That's the only good thing about RoboCop 3 is that he gets a fucking jetpack. Maybe a motorcycle. So like you can do all the cool shit that you'd expect in an open world sandbox game. He can also steal vehicles, or sorry, commandeer vehicles for auto chases. I'm using air quotes when I say that. Commandeer vehicles. But like you break up crimes and stuff, but you also have like major crimes that have evidence that lead to other things. So like, maybe you arrest a guy for slapping up his girlfriend. Turns out he is a known felon who might be connected to a murder from like 6 months earlier, like it's like, oh, well, shit, this is kind of, it would be a different type of sandbox game, I think, than, your GTAs where you just run around doing whatever the hell you want.
I'm still waiting for a turn-based RPG based on My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic.
No.
Me and Red are going to agree on something, and here's something that's going to hit you. We don't think My Little Pony is going to get anything like that at all.
No, I don't want to. You don't want
to get a 10-foot pole, don't you?
Look, I've said this before. Okay, my only thing that I know about My Little Pony is basically like
advertisements.
My big thing is basically my big thing, like my only introduction to My Little Pony is like I didn't like, because when I was a kid the toys were out there, but they were for girls, and I was a boy, so I didn't have stuff like that. When I was a kid, boys had dolls too, but our dolls were called action figures. God damn it.
Yeah, I bet you their names were G.I. and Joe.
Actually, no. I only had like 2 G.I. Joes, and it was Snake Eyes and Duke.
Okay.
Yeah, I had 2 G.I. Joes. My big thing when I was a kid were TMNT, and that's who I had. I had TMNT. Now these are the original TMNT, the '89 TMNT. The Teenage
the Heroes in the Half Shell
Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The one that if you had Shredder, he never stood up straight. So you had to like take like a stick or something and prop him up, because basically his stance was so fucked up that he'd fall over all the time. I had all of those. As a matter of fact, I still have most of my TMNT action figures in a box at my parents' house. Not on me, but it's at my parents' house. I'll get it one day. I might do a video showing that. So yeah. So I had all that stuff, and I mean, frankly speaking, I just don't.
Oh God, I'm here for you. Tell you the current show, Gen 4, has enough characters, locations, and creatures and villains that warrants a turn-based RPG.
I don't need it. I don't need My Little Pony, because what we had My Little Pony when I was a kid, and they had a pretty catchy theme song.
That depends on your definition of catchy, because
okay, it was earworm catchy, not good catchy. Because basically it came on the Disney the Disney Channel, but it was like that weird point before the really good Disney cartoons came on, but after
like
Care Bears,
the Gummy Bears.
Yeah, like Gummy Bear, like the ones that had the really good theme songs. So it was like you'd have Care Bears, and then they show some bullshit, and then they'd have My Little Pony, and then right after My Little Pony came the good stuff, like Gummy Bears, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, Tailspin, Gargoyle, Gargoyle Duck. Yeah,
that too.
But we had My Little Pony, and I was like, I don't give a shit about this. and even back then, like the episodes that I did see of it, it was like the tail end when the next shit was about to start, because we didn't have TiVo back in the day. If you wanted to watch your show early, you had to watch the end of the previous show in order to get to your show. And this was the Disney afternoon, so I was not gonna miss Gummy Bears, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck. Any of that stuff. So I mean maybe I would say do a puzzle game. Do like a match 3, 4, 5 puzzle game, like puzzle RPG. They could monetize the shit out of it because bronies love to collect those damn things. So you basically
thank you very much.
You can have the variation Rainbow Bright. she's got foil in her mane, so you can. She does +3 damage with the rainbow. Man, I don't give a fuck. I don't care. I don't give a shit.
Pinky, remember, this is Red Fox we're talking about. The guy that has liquor for the arcade, and it's also one of the people that support the Bethesda.
I don't give a fuck. No, look, I don't support Bethesda. I buy their games.
I said to a degree.
Or at least someone who falls into gender stereotypes.
And I admit that their games suck. The only reason they're worth playing is because of the modding community. I'll never say, oh, they make good games, because they don't. Basically, it's not that I conform to gender stereotypes. I just have no interest in playing with how can I put this? With pony dolls.
Pastel-colored ponies.
I don't feel like playing with pony dolls. I don't. And unfortunately,
I thought you were going to go with pastel-colored ponies, but I'll get you there.
I mean, I've never been interested in playing with. I mean, really, with my action figures, like the only I like my TMNT. Like that was like the age. Like that was the age for me to get into stuff. Like I wasn't like He-Man was before my time. G.I. Joe was really big in the mid '80s and the early '80s. Like that was the age of G.I. Joe. That wasn't my thing. My thing was TMNT. Loved Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I like multiple Halloweens. I went as different turtles for each Halloween. Like one Halloween I went as Leo, another Halloween I went as Raph, another Halloween I went as Donnie, another Halloween I went as Mikey. like that's my shit. TMNT. That was my thing that I was obsessive over when I was younger. Now it's like I just don't, like I judge a fan base by the people in it. And a lot of the people that like My Little Pony are bronies, and I know a few bronies, and they're not people that I want to hang out with. So will not be joining that fan base anytime soon, if ever.
That I can understand.
So
it kind of calmed down when it kind of calmed down. Now it's more relaxed compared to the other fan bases.
I'm sorry. I can't. I don't want to be. Look, I think it's already kind of weird to me that you have grown ass men fighting over things who don't have kids.
Like that.
Yeah, like that. Like okay. Like like it. I mean, basically, bronies are basically like the Cabbage Patch parents were back in the day, or the American Doll people were back in the day, or the Furby people. It's like because a lot of these people, or the Beanie Baby people, because these people weren't even getting this shit for their kids; they were getting it for themselves. A lot of them for monetary purposes, but what's even worse is when it's not even for monetary purposes. It's for just
the collector value.
Collect shit. That's when I'm like, okay, that's I'm not that type of person. Like I have some retro video games, but I've never gotten retro video games for collection. Like I don't have that type of gotta catch them all, because basically I'm not spending that type of money on a hobby that's like that, especially not for some fucking plastic ponies. It's not worth it.
Okay, so moving on to another intellectual property that could use a video game treatment.
Go ahead.
You did mention He-Man. I don't think we ever had that many He-Man video games before. Do we?
I would. I do got an idea. I mean, never mind. If anything, I was thinking something else, but then again, I remembered that it was a game, but a card game, but a game, and it could have been something better if it was in a different genre. Anybody know the series known as Huntix?
Nope.
Oh boy, that's really odd then that I pulled that up.
What was it?
Huntix.
Huntix. Never heard of it. Sorry. I heard someone He-Man, but He-Man kind of, I mean, like you're right. We've had like 2 He-Man video games when both of them sucked. I think you could do a good He-Man video game now, but it would have to be something that was like good. And I don't think people want to make a good He-Man video game.
I think the only kind of He-Man game that He-Man might be in is something like the Double Dragons.
Where it's like a beat 'em up?
Yeah. So,
or something like Red Earth.
I would go more with a beat 'em up. Because, I mean, that could totally work.
Yeah, because if anything, it'd probably be the only single player beat 'em up I know of so far. Because most of the beat 'em ups I remember usually have co-op. Double Dragon, the Golden Axe, the Turtles.
There's enough
X-Men.
people, He-Man, that you could have 2 campaigns. One that's He-Man, and the other campaign that's Skeletor and his crew. He-Man and his crew, and then you can have a third campaign that's them having to team up to take on an even greater threat. It could totally work. Although, if they get Skeletor, they need to have a voice actor who can really pull off Skeletor's voice. It is I, Skeletor! My real name is Kandor, the uncle of Prince Adam! Yeah! Children! Yeah! Me, Skeletor! Yeah! You can kiss my bony ass! Yeah! Even though only my face is skeletal, the rest of me is pretty well muscled.
Yeah, that would be a weird tale to tell.
Evil Lynn! Come to my quarters later on. I have something to show you. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that'd be an interesting game. They could do it, and it would be cheap because you could utilize it. I mean, you'd have to redesign He-Man so that he doesn't look quite as gay as he did back in the 80s.
You mean before he transformed or after?
What's going on?
Or he looks a little S&M. He looks a little S&M gay. I think if they go with what he had in like the early 2000s when they did the He-Man reboot, like I think they could pull that off. Any other underutilized IPs? We had He-Man. Someone said Huntix. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, and I'll explain this real quick because I got knowledge of it, and it's the weirdest one I've heard. It was a TV series that was basically exploring the world, trying to find treasures and defeating guys that were trying to find these weird treasures with powers in them.
I vaguely remember that, but I don't think the cartoon did that well. I think they pulled it off after a season and a half or something.
Yeah, you're right. And the worst part is they tried to make it a trading card game.
Oh, well, yeah, that's where they fucked up. Yeah, little kids aren't.
Yeah, as I said,
a trading card game. I'm sorry, they're not.
Yeah, I was going to say that if it was a different genre of game type, like a board game or even a video game,
platformer,
I think it's
trading card game. Yeah, trading card game. Unless it's Pokemon. That's because Pokemon, the trading card game had an end because you had the popular video game and not because. If Pokemon had started out as a trading card game, Pokemon would not be where it is right now. It would be dead. That shit would have lasted maybe 2 or 3 years and be gone.
I was going to say,
the Pokemon trading card game is still alive and well today.
I didn't say it wasn't. The reason I said that the reason the trading card game managed to take off was because it had the platform of a video game, which is true. If it had started as a trading card game and there was no video game, Pokemon would not be where it is today, which is what I said. So yeah, let's see. What was the other? I was gonna say, Johnny Quest. Wouldn't that be an interesting globetrotting game where you play as Johnny?
I was wondering if it's an active platformer.
Well, I mean,
I was thinking that it'd be like DuckTales, but with more punches, kicks, and weapons.
Well, if you're playing as Race Bannon, because he's the only one who does that. Benton Quest just sits there and acts like a bitch. And
I was thinking the kids.
Johnny goes, well, Johnny doesn't really beat anybody up unless you get teenage Johnny, and then, I mean, he still doesn't really beat anybody up.
That's a good point. It's just that
his yoga abilities to do stuff.
Yeah, it's just that if anything, I was thinking that at least the kids would try to defend themselves a little bit, but otherwise you would have Race Band do all the punch downs.
Yeah. I mean, Haji's kind of cool. You could give him maybe a pole or something. He could beat people up with martial arts skills, but Johnny's just useless.
Oh.
Maybe you could stick Benji on people. Get him, Benji. But Benji's a little bug, so what's he going to do? Like stare at you cutely?
They probably would need a different gameplay style for that.
Trying to remember what else I was going to say.
I don't know. Let's see. I want to wrap this up by 8:30. Anyone have any pressing things they want to add before we wrap things up? Anything? We got 9 minutes. The sky's the limit.
Yes, I do have some video game related news.
Okay, let's get to it.
Tekken director Katsuhiro Harada admitting that the Tekken Street Fighter crossover game is harder to justify.
Well, I think
I'm sorry, but
here's the thing. He doesn't need to justify it. They were trying to make money. That's all it is.
And
That's
the
it.
reason, the reason for this is because he doesn't want to mess with the momentum Street Fighter 5 and Tekken 4 are having in the current esports environment.
I'm sorry.
You know,
Did I
would
hear that
agree
right?
with him. I would agree with him until he said Street Fighter 5 because, like, haven't they dropped
Street Fighter 5
from a
is
lot of
trash.
Evo competitions? Like, what momentum?
That's what I was wondering. Because seriously, Street Fighter 5 is.
It's still being played in even at Evo this year.
You know, that may be the case, but come on, man. Like, I mean,
Street Fighter 5 was a mess.
Haven't we made this point that people who play video games competitively are not the industry? I mean, are not the market, because
they're a portion of the industry.
Not even a significant portion. Like, okay, let me put it this way: it's kind of like football, right? Like the people who can play football professionally. When I say football, I mean American football. You know, big motherfuckers who weigh 300 plus pounds smash into each other 25 miles per hour. Okay,
causing confusion.
Yeah, but I mean, aside from the moral implications and all that stuff, you're talking about of all the college athletes who get drafted, right? Most of them wash out within the first 2 or 3 years. So of that, you're only going to get, like, if 100 people get drafted or signed or anything like that, only about 20 of them are actually going to stay with those teams. So you're looking at 20 people per year who actually get to stay with the team.
And that's for time.
Yeah, a team. Let's say each team, if you include the people that are on the roster but not on the field, 25 people. Okay, 25 people. There's like, I don't know, 30 something teams. You're looking at around
20. You said 25 times 30, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to. It's like 600 people. Okay. No. Yeah, 600. It's 600 people. Okay, let's say 630. Okay, 630 people. That's still that's not even that's like a 0.001% of the total population. And those are professional athletes. These are people who can do shit that normal people cannot do. All right. Whereas if you're good at playing video games, anybody, if they have enough time, can good enough to do what professional video game people do, because there's no other trick to it other than just a lot of training. Whereas, athletes, like, I don't care how good you are at basketball, you're never going to be 7'4".
I would make a comment about how I recently saw a video talking about how to make fighting games more accessible, and I think that could be a podcast of its own.
I'm just gonna say this right now: if you spend enough time training, you can get good enough to do practically anything. So I'm not gonna say, oh my god, it's you gotta make everything accessible. I think games are accessible enough. It's just how much time do you want to put in order to get good enough to be proficient at it, to have fun. But
yeah.
Sports, by and large, especially once you start playing at the higher levels, you have to have a certain level of aptitude and skill, and also a lot of training in order to get good enough to play at that level. So it's like, for someone to sit there and say, oh my god, the momentum, like when Capcom said, oh, the reason we rushed out Street Fighter 5 is because what was it?
They want it because of Evo.
They want it for Evo. It's like Evo makes up 0.001% of your of the people who fucking play those games. And a lot of people get those games for free. So really, it's like you rushed the game out. And Street Fighter 5 is one of the lowest selling Street Fighters in existence thus far. So, I mean, clearly that didn't work. Clearly that was just some bullshit, right?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, how the heck they screwed up Street Fighter so much that's actually scary.
And still right now, still a word of any new characters for the current season of Street Fighter 5, other than Oni, which is just Evil Ryu in its true form.
I mean, I guess. I mean, personally, here's all I'm going to say before we get to the end of the podcast. I just think it was bullshit. I just think that the guy, it was about money. Okay, you basically had Tekken that was getting a resurgence at that point. You had Street Fighter, which always, until Capcom started fucking up the mainline series repeatedly over and over again, was always pretty highly regarded, and they just kept on, But that's on Capcom. Capcom dropped the ball on that one. Any other news?
Nintendo closing their anti-piracy website.
Okay.
I never heard of that.
Neither did I. This is the first time I've heard about their anti-piracy website.
I guess they want to keep people from pirating their you know what this means? You know why? Because they're probably releasing the Switch in China through Tencent, and and now that it's hitting China, they just don't care. They're like, fuck it, they're gonna pirate it anyway. What's the point?
So the site now redirects to Nintendo.com.
I guess. So what? Just keep on rolling with the news.
All right, so here's one more news before we move on. Before we could wrap things up. Ex-Gearbox VP David Eddings, who is also the voice of Claptrap in Borderlands, claims that Randy Pitchford physically assaulted him at GDC 2017.
I believe it.
So yeah, some Gearbox drama in regards to.
Oh boy.
According to David Eddings, he was, yeah. He was surprised that he was being replaced since he's part of the union voice actors community, and he said he had mixed feelings about it since he wanted because if he was asked again to reprise his role, he would have done it for free since it's Gearbox. And when he came to spoke to Randy at the GDC 2017 at the Marriott Marcus, Randy physically assaulted him at the lobby instead. So it's only 2 years. It's only 2 years till 2 years later that he started talking about this. Once Borderlands.
He could have been under NDA.
Once all the Gearbox drama was undergoing some heavy drama.
He could have been under an NDA. So, and plus, I mean, Randy Pitchford.
He wasn't under an NDA.
Randy Pitchford has done some pretty
shady
shit. Shady shit. Like, he's done a lot of shady shit. I mean, I don't want him to be. How can I put this? I don't want, like, okay. Like, Randy Pitchford's shady as fuck. All right. He's done some shady shit where it's just like, come on, man. And like,
it makes me wonder how many extra lives does he have in his pocket because he keeps doing some stuff that would get people fired,
By and large,
and he still is in there.
By and large, the games that he makes 2K a lot of money, and as long as he continues to make money for 2K, they're not gonna give a shit. Like, you might not like, okay, Borderlands 1 made a lot of money. Borderlands 2 made a lot of money. Borderlands, the pre-sequel, made a decent amount of money. Tales from Borderlands made a lot of money. Like, basically, like, okay, and you have their Paladin game or whatever that game was that flopped miserably. But by and large, like, most of their games make money. And even with this deal with Borderlands 3, where they're making this deal with Epic, where it's going to be an Epic exclusive for 6 months, or is it a year, whatever. Like, you know, they're gonna make money. They're gonna make money double time because they're gonna make money off Epic, and then when it comes to Steam, they're gonna make money. So either way, they're gonna make money. So, you know, it is what it is.
And with that, that's all the video game news we have for this week so far.
Okay, then. Well, I got nothing to say except, you know, I'm going to steal this.
We're still only halfway through this week, and we got all that trash. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
so imagine how bad it'll probably be by Sunday. So I guess I guess we can end it off. Who wants to give their sign off first and pimp out what they want to pimp out? Then we wrap things up.
Well, this is Big Off Big and Facts. I'll be going shopping tomorrow searching for a gift for Mother's Day, as well as going to the movies soon to watch Detective Pikachu.
All right, Jewel.
Thank you, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages. I'm Joe very own Moonstar, and if anything, Mr. Red Fox is always around, and if you want to contact him, he has contact information for you.
I do have contact information for you. But before we get into that contact information, oh, shit, we have some comments here. Okay, then. We'll get to these comments, and then I'll get to the... Okay, so this is from Jorge Saldivar. Which type of Pokemon would you like to see in Sword and Shield? I mean,
I've already made a list up for that.
Yeah,
I'm keeping that to myself because if anything, expectations are already pretty high for this game because of people saying it's on the Switch, it's gonna be epic. I'm not even gonna fall for that one.
Yeah, basically, I don't have any idea because basically, for me, Pokemon, like I used to be a hardcore Pokemon fan. As time has gone on, I've kind of become more casual to the point where I just don't care. So, I mean, I just don't care. Like, I hope that the new Switch version of Pokemon has enough new shit in it that it's going to make people feel like it's next gen. If it doesn't, well, fuck it. I don't care. I'm probably not going to get it anyway. Area 73 has a comment. Voltron / Robotech would have been good, but it got hot in the wrong decade. That's true. That's true. I think we could totally do a Robotech game now, though. It would be like Star Fox, except instead of R-Wings, you'd have Veritech fighters. And that could be awesome. Jorge Zaldivar has another comment. I heard that Sword and Shield may have a veterans mode or something. Does this mean that we might have the option of switching?
Where did he hear? Where on earth did he hear that?
I don't know. I think he heard that someplace. Maybe the same weird Discord places where people like to go and find rumors.
He doesn't go to Discord though. He only goes on Discus.
Does this mean that we might have the option of switching the Gen 1 through 5 cries between retro and modern? Actually, that would be kind of cool if they had like a mode for old school people who don't like all these newfangled shit they added. But I mean, like, here's the thing. That would mean that
you want to ignore the base that you grew.
Well, I mean, the Pokemon company doesn't seem to, by and large, except for Pokemon X and Y, doesn't seem to be amenable to sating the old school fans. So They keep on grasping for the new ones, and that's their business model. Works for them. They made a lot of money, so probably not. By the time Gen 8 begins, I hope they go back to the design I grew up with through Gen 6. They're not going to do that. They always move forward. I'll give them that much, even though they're little tiny micro steps at a time. How would you like it if Capcom made a Jump versus Capcom game? That would be cool. Even though most of Capcom's games look like they belong in a Jump versus Capcom game anyway. I mean, like Ryu is already a cartoon character, so why the fuck not?
What about Gene from Godhand? He looks like a character. Gene from Godhand. He looks like someone who could fit into the Fist of the North Star universe.
Yeah, they all like that's the art style in Japan, really, by and large. Like they don't use hyper realistic art styles for their games, by and large. Sometimes they do. Most of the time they don't. Let's see what else. And the last comment. What about Marvel versus SNK? That would be cool.
That thing, I actually would be happy. That would be making hype because if anything, I got Capcom versus SNK for the GameCube.
Yeah, and since Capcom fucked up Marvel Infinite,
does this mean Geese Howard versus Kingpin?
Well, you could have Kingpin as a character. Hell, you could have a lot of characters as characters. That would be awesome. We should do a podcast where we just brainstorm what that roster would look like for both sides. Now, to be fair,
next week,
I'm not the biggest SNK fan. There's like one version SNK from the SNK lineup that I like. The rest of them I don't really give a shit about. But I think that by and large, SNK has pretty much shown that they make a better 2D fighting game than Capcom has for the longest time because Capcom just dropped the ball. They dropped the fucking ball.
Dropped the ball? I was about to say, they sent their ball into the ocean.
and then picked it up and launched it into the sun. But that being said, I'm going to pimp out something. Today came out one of my favorite titles. Game I've been looking forward to. Came to the Switch, also came to PC through Epic's gaming store. Shakedown Hawaii, motherfuckers. That's right. The unofficial spiritual sequel to Retro City Rampage has come out. I think it's also.
If anything, I would have kept it to the Switch because I don't trust Epic.
Neither do I, but it is what it is. I've been playing it. I have some footage of the beginning of the game, the first few story modes. It's actually pretty damn good. I mean, it basically plays like a better Retro City Rampage. Like, how Retro City Rampage's controls were a little squidgy, not quite precise enough. This game fixes that. And yet it's basically a bigger, better Retro City Rampage. And the main character kind of looks like an older, fatter, out of shape version of the main character. Kid from Retro City Rampage, except he isn't. This is a completely different game, but it's like 24-bit instead of 16-bit because it uses some bits that aren't necessarily 16-bit. But yeah, the game's great. You should get it. Just want to pimp that out there. And so now I'm going to give you the information for how to reach me. You can reach me on mrredfoxbsbuster@gmail.com. or at Twitter at Matthew Wesley at mrredfox91. That being said, at the end of the podcast, remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. You can reach me on Twitter. I haven't been very diligent on checking Twitter, but if you want to talk to me on Twitter, you can find me, and I will respond to you. Just make sure you say hashtag BSBusters so that I know, because there's a lot of shit on my Twitter feed. I might have to create a new Twitter feed and change my thing just strictly for BS Busters, but we'll see about that. That being said, that's in the podcast. Remember, rate, comment, share, subscribe. Peace. And I'm going to steal this from Shadow Fox Infinite. Do you play games to have fun or to impress other people?